Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our next video. Today we are going to be diving into installing NetBeans into a virtual machine here. Now this process is exactly the same for your host machine, so if you don't have a virtual machine, you're just doing this on a host machine, that's perfectly fine. Follow the steps completely the same way I do here, and it will show you exactly I'll show you exactly what needs to be done when installing when installing NetBeans into a Windows machine. What I'm going to do is, the reason I'm using a virtual machine for this and not my native machine is because I already have NetBeans installed. It is a little complicated. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, especially with the way I do it. But I make sure that it's a guaranteed 100% foolproof way to make it work. So what we are doing now is installing NetBeans into a virtual machine. I'm going to throw this away when I'm done with it and then just simply do the rest of my NetBeans tutorials on my native NetBeans machine. But for our purposes, this is what we're going to use to install NetBeans. And the first thing that bugs me about this display is how, even though we've extended it so that it goes both ways, it hasn't taken over the full screen resolution yet because we still have our home bar on the bottom here. I want to get rid of that. And the way I'm going to do that is by clicking up here to View, and I'm going to go to full screen mode. Now, it's going to give me this little prompter here that tells me that, okay, I can go to full screen mode, but I can hit this button to go back to it. Yeah, whatever. We'll switch it anyway. There we go. So now I have a fully functional, like a machine right here on my screen right here, which is good to go. So now what we're going to do is go about installing NetBeans into this. Now, you're going to go to your favorite browser. I would say Chrome is probably my favorite, but because this is a throwaway machine, I'm going to go ahead and use the IE right here, the Microsoft Edge thing here, which I'm actually not too familiar with, but it should be just fine. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a Java JDK. Now, Java JDK stands for Java Development Kit, right? JDK is Java Development Kit. We need to find the appropriate one to make sure that it works appropriately. So we're going to go to oracle.com downloads, which should be right here, should be right around here. It doesn't really matter which one we go to, as long as they eventually lead us to the same place. So it's going to bring us here. It's going to ask us what we would like to download here. Now, there's a lot to download here. There's a lot to take in. There's a lot of differences here between all of these things, and it's very important that you make sure you have the right one. I am, again, on a Windows machine, so I definitely don't want to do anything for Linux. I don't want Mac. I don't want Solaris. I want Windows, which is right here, the bottom two of each one. Now, but which one do I want? I am going to go with the Java SE Development Kit 8U201, which is this very first one right here. Now, these are demos and samples. 202 is great if you're using like 8.2 or something, but we are going to be using 8.1. So Java SE Development Kit right here is what we're looking for, and we're using a 64-bit architecture. So bang. Oh, we have to accept first. Make sure you accept the license agreement. There we go. Read it if you're not familiar with it. You can click right there, and you'll get the you'll actually get that brought up for you in another window. But we're not going to do that right now. Instead, we will simply download it, and it should be just fine. So we want to make sure that we have. Where are we? This is because I'm not too familiar with Internet Explorer. Guys, I'm really not an Internet Explorer guy. Yeah, so that's the license agreement. We're not that worried about it. Come on now. Go away. Ugh, virtualization. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. Great. Now we want to go ahead and make sure we run that. JDK 201. Click run. Come on now. Run. There it goes. 43%, 44, 45. It shouldn't take very long to go about installing this. Now, what the JDK does is it works in tandem with the IDE, which is what we're going to develop next. You want to make sure that your IDE and your JDK are working in tandem to make sure that you can actually write code effectively. The reason being, you can execute codes from the command line, and you want to make sure your computer is set up accordingly to do so. This menu right here is just basically saying is you want to let it make changes. Yes, I do. It's perfectly fine, and this should be good to go. There we go. All done. there we go. All downloaded, ran, good to go. So yes, and it's good. Now, the next thing we need to do is install the actual... where is it? Okay, is install NetBeans, which is our actual IDE. IDE stands for... okay, whatever. Okay, come on now. Figure it out. Next, fine. Okay, go away. Okay, cool. So it looks like I clicked the button about 100 times. That's why I got so many menus. You don't have to do it that many times. Hopefully you don't. Maybe I'm wildly inefficient. I don't know. But anyway, once this is finished installing, we are going to go ahead and install our IDE. Our IDE is going to be known as NetBeans. NetBeans and Eclipse are the two big ones when it comes to coding with Java. We're going to use NetBeans because I think NetBeans is a little bit more user-friendly, although it's really not industry standard. I think most industry standard software development companies, if I can say that, would probably use Eclipse over NetBeans. But NetBeans seems to be the one that is a little more user-friendly, I think. So we'll go to NetBeans. Let's see what the status is on here. Good to go. Almost there. This will end in just a second, and nothing exciting is going to happen when this finishes installing. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over here to download. Very good. Now you'll get hit with a lot of different things that you can download here. A lot of different options, including these what are known as the Apache NetBeans versions. Those are okay, but they're not really necessary per se. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but they're not really necessary, so we want to make sure that we install the one that's appropriate. Now we're going to go with 8.1. If you downloaded anything other than the 8U201, you want to make sure you get either 8.2, 8.0, or 7.4. 8.1 is the one for us. Is the one for us. So we have Java's installing right now. Finally, 3 billion devices run on Java. I guess it's a good thing to know. This shouldn't take very long at all to install. While it's installing, I'll walk you through some of the options over here. You can decide which version of NetBeans you would like. I think that, like, it's nice to download the one that has everything, but at the same time, this is overkill. This is way too much stuff that you're probably never going to use, never going to think about, never going to mess with. In 99.9% of applications, I think that the first one is going to be just fine. It's also going to be the fastest one to download. The biggest thing that kind of stands out to me a little bit is that it doesn't support C# and C++. That's because I have no idea why that's that way. But to be honest with you, we're not going to be doing any programming with C++ for a very long time, if at all. So I'm not that worried about it. I guess PHP and HTML5 are important also, but all we're worried about now is Java, and the platform Java SE and FX should be fine, dandy, and should be good to go. Great. So Java's done downloaded. Java is already downloaded. Java is finished downloading, is what I should say. We will go to Java SE. You click download. Great. Not automatically. Yes, it did. And then we're going to click run. Pretty straightforward, pretty self-explanatory, but pretty clear, I think. Kind of tricky if you don't do this the right way. If you use an IDE 8.2 or 7.4 or whatever the one was on the screen, you can actually get some errors later on down the road, and I'll show you where I cringe a little bit, where I still get a little bit nervous, even though I'm pretty confident that what we've done here is appropriate and rightly done. So, great. Now the security scan is done. We're going to let this boot up here. It's going to ask us if it wants to make some changes. We're going to say, absolutely, hack into my computer, you Russian spy. Just kidding. NetBeans is going to pop up here, and it's going to take, probably a couple of minutes here to install. It won't take too long, I don't think. But in the event that it does, I will go and stop the recording right now, and be back with you as soon as it's finished. Yeah, so as soon as I said finished, it came right back. Yeah, so NetBeans IDE 8.1 installer is done. We'll click next. We make sure we accept the terms of use. Read through this verbatim. This will be on the test. Just kidding. No one ever reads these things, but I hope that you do, because there's a lot of stuff in these agreements that does slide past you, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to blindly agree to any terms and conditions of any license agreement. So make sure you read this to understand it, especially the preamble. I'm just kidding. Whatever. Read it all. Understand it. Click next. Now it's going to decide where do you want it to go? Like where do you want to put NetBeans? I'm going to put it on my desktop. We'll say desktop. Okay, that should be fine. And then it's going to ask us which JDK we want to use, which the 201 is absolutely fine. Fine and dandy. Okay. There we go. Click next. Check for updates is totally fine. I'm actually going to go ahead and uncheck that just in case it tries to update to 8.2 or anything else. So, just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wait for NetBeans to install. I will be right back with you as soon as it finishes. Great, so looks like we have NetBeans fully installed now and ready to go. This is, I believe, our final menu before we have the opportunity to actually boot up NetBeans and run it from the ground up. So, it's going to ask us if you want to contribute to NetBeans, to the NetBeans project by providing anonymous usage data. I'm going to uncheck it, but you can leave yours checked. Doesn't really matter either way. We'll finish it there, and ladies and gentlemen, we should have a working copy of NetBeans IDE 8.1, which is located right there on my desktop. Let's go ahead and boot this up. Now, a word about NetBeans. It does take quite a while to load up, to boot up, but if it works, it will be worth it, and we will have a working IDE ready to go. So this menu, turning on modules, might sit for a little while. Starting modules might take a little bit of time. This menu is doozy. Now, if you have a problem with NetBeans at this point, if it's stuck right here, and if it says initializing modules or initializing NetBeans or something like that, it means there's a problem with your JDK. You have to go back and reinstall NetBeans in order to use the actual JDK that you need to use. So that actually didn't take very long at all. It pops right up, and look at that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fully functional version of NetBeans absolutely ready for us to go. So I am going to end this video here. The next one, I'm going to show you how to customize the layout of NetBeans, and then we should be ready to dive into creating Java programs with the one and only NetBeans IDE version 8.1.